Well, hello there, Meow Mentors. It's Cat Lady Justin. This is the Kitty Boss, where we pick, pamper, and protect your practically perfect pussycat for a lifetime of unconditional love. Today is a very special episode because I have with me the founder of Community Cats podcast, Stacy LeBaron. I am very excited to meet her because I actually went to her podcast on the Community Cats podcast to talk about our mission here at Kitty Boss of helping a million more cats to find a household, and of course, all those lonely people to find a lifetime of unconditional love. Stacy is on a mission of her own, which we are going to find out more together. I do have the inside scoop, but let's meet Stacy. Welcome to the Kitty Boss. I'm honored and grateful to have you here. You are on such a noble mission. This is exciting. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me here today.
It's the absolute pleasure. So like I said to everybody, I had a look at the Community Cats podcast website, which I encourage certainly everyone to do. It's simply communitycatspodcast.com. I'll spell it for everyone later who's not watching, but it's the really amazing mission that you're on. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But the first thing I want to ask you is probably something that a few people have thought about, which is community cats. Oh, wow. We have several people here already. We have Bella Donna Doolittle saying, anybody there? Yes, we are here. But just to let you know, I always let it run for about a minute or so to give people like you a chance to tune in before actually jumping in on that stuff. But yeah, we are here. We have, of course, one of my good friends and future guest on this show, the crocheting cat behaviorist, who not only is a cat behaviorist, but also crochets the loveliest little things for you and your cats, saying hi. So hi. And then we have our friend, Janie Smith-Shea. Hello from St. Louis. Well, hello. Well, I happen to be in Nottingham, England, the home of Robin Hood. Even though I am American, I reside here. Stacy, you are on the East Coast of the United States. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm in Vermont.
In Vermont. Oh, right. Ben and Jerry's territory. So we like our Vermont. So anyway, so the first question that really came to mind for me is the word community cats. So is that a euphemism for, let's say, I don't know, feral cats or stray cats or anything like that? Is this just a catch-all for those things?
Yeah, so the definition really of what I use for community cats is a cat that's got 4 paws on the ground. So it's a cat that's outdoors, and in many cases is not already spayed and neutered, but a cat that's living outside and part of the outdoor community. So that could be an indoor-outdoor cat. Somebody owns the cat, or it could be an outdoor-only cat. It could be a friendly cat, could be a shy cat. When we think of feral cats, we think of very shy, very quiet. You know, they're always hiding. They come out at night. But there are many more cats that are out in our environment that are community cats.
So that's really good because it's a more embracive term, is what I'm understanding, is that it's not just a feral or not just a stray or not just a whatever. It's an embracive term that is a cat that's part of the community. So for example, I guess the famous here in the UK cat that resides at number 10 Downing Street, which is our version of the White House, it doesn't belong to any specific prime minister. They kind of all, adopt him, or he adopts them. He's known as the Royal Mouser. It's because I guess he chases mice and all that. And then I know all the police that guard the house, they'll always open the door for him because there's no cat flap or anything. They'll just open the door for him and let him in and out. But I guess he would be kind of a community cat. And the cats, for example, my dad takes care of. They're not really strays because he takes care of them, but they are cats that are not his property, his particular children, whatever you want to call them, nor do they seem to belong to anybody, but he does take care of them. He does make sure they're fed and well looked after and healthy and all that. So I suppose these are what we call community cats. They're not necessarily the image of like the diseased, in jeopardy thing, because of us, because of people like us who take care of them and make sure that they're not, and that they don't fall into that. Is that right?
That is correct. And many of us feed cats that we don't know whether they're owned or not. And so there are many instances where a community cat will be fed by 3 or 4 different families, and the families don't even know that they're, sharing the cat. So we are a very caring and loving world and community. We want to help animals. And so many cats are well fed and well cared for out there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting. There's one not far from here because I like to go for a morning walk, and there's an industrial estate with a gatehouse about, I don't know, good 10, 15 minutes from here. And there's a cat there named George. He's apparently an older cat. He's 19 years old, a little beautiful black thing that looks like a puma. Very friendly, very nice. But I've noticed in the last few weeks a sign that's been posted there saying, please do not feed George. He is well looked after. He is well fed. And you feeding him means we have trouble getting him in at night and eating his food. So sometimes the community cat is a little bit too well looked after and loved. So I never brought food for him, but I have to admit I am guilty of bringing some snacks to the cats I meet as I walk around and stuff like that. I just can't resist. They're so cute and all that. So the community cat is that. Can I ask a question? The community cat is it possible for a community cat to be actually owned by someone? Like, could my cats, I mean, they're indoor house cats, but could they theoretically, if they were outdoor cats, become community cats?
I would consider them community cats. If you own a cat and it's indoor outdoor, and I have owned cats that have been indoor outdoor, I would consider them community cats because they're interacting with others, they're out and about, and playing an impact in the sort of balancing systems in your neighborhood. So I consider them a community cat. Even though I own them, I worry about the cat. If you do run into a friendly cat, my cat that was outdoors was a friendly cat. If someone was worried about whether that cat was owned, I would hope they would put a paper collar on the cat. My cat was microchipped and had a collar when it stayed on his neck. And but you can use a paper collar to say, does anybody own me? So that then you can find out who the primary owner is of a friendly cat.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. I never thought of that. That's why you're here, to teach us things like little tricks like that. We do have something in the UK. So I know a majority of the listeners are in the United States, but I do know we have some people who are here, like me, in the United Kingdom. There is something you may or may not know about that we have here. We have, obviously, everyone knows about our Cats Protection, our famous charity started in the last century, called Cats Protection League. They dropped that little bit of archaic terminology, but they're Cats Protection, and they make sure that they're, first of all, no healthy cat is ever put down, and they have all kinds of benefits. But one thing they have is an app. Is an app, and I'll try and pull it up on my phone just so I can show people a visual of what this app looks like, because it's great. I've used it a few times when I wasn't sure whether a cat was a stray or feral or whatever, because through the app you can take a photograph of the cat. It geolocates you where you are, and you can put a description and also how certain, what you think it is. Is it feral, and how certain you are. And they have a network of people geographically located around the country who, their numbers are in the app, depending on where you are. And those people are responsible for coming and trying to find the cat and, seeing what's up with it. So it's a really great thing, because if, you don't have, the paper collar on you, or you didn't, like me, you didn't think of it. Oh yeah, it's called Cat Watch, and so I don't know if it's probably hard to see here, but yeah, it'll be too hard to see with the little blur background I've got going. But it's called Cat Watch. So if you're in the UK, you can go to the your app store and just look up Cat Watch, WATCH, like watching the cat, and you can find it, and you can record a stray. It tells you all about the app as well. So I think it's a really great thing that we have here. If you don't have such a thing, or you don't have access to such a thing, or you're out with that, then the paper collars is definitely the best idea if you're uncertain about the status of a kitty cat, because we want to make sure that they're okay, don't we?
Oh, for sure, definitely. And there are a lot of different, it's understanding your community too. Some folks might not have a lot of smartphones, and you can imagine maybe not, but in some parts of here in the United States, going to your phone and looking for like a geolocating a cat might not be somebody's first angle to approach. So that's why the basic paper collar is good. But there are programs that do have the facial recognition that they try to do with the cats. To somebody's reporting a missing cat, someone's reporting a found cat, to see if they can match the faces together, to put the match together. There is a program with an organization here in Boston, Massachusetts, the MSPCA, and for the stray cats that they have coming in, they return 30% of them. They find their owners for 30% of the cats, and you think, oh no, but what happens to the other 70? Well, nationally, the statistic is more like 3% for cats that are brought in as strays being returned back to their homes. So it's really low in the United States for folks to be able to get their stray cats, to get them back to their original owner if they are truly a missing cat. So it's really important to have this like micro connection, micro outreach first in the local community. A lot of people will post on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever. They'll post on social media, but they won't ask their neighbors, like if they've seen the cat. So it's really start really small and then build from there.
Yeah, you radiate like a ripple in a pond, radiate from where you are. You never know. The cat might be just in your neighbor's garage or something like that. And yeah, and I'm really it's sad. It's a sad statistic in the USA. I don't know why that is. I mean, it's one of the reasons I recommend microchipping. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of microchipping, of inserting this thing. I mean, I can still feel the thing in Charlotte, not Emily so much, but Charlotte's she's a long hair with super fluffy, so I can feel it sort of under her skin. So it's not my favorite thing in the world, but heaven forbid she ever goes out and strays and I can't find her. I don't know what I'd do with myself. I'd be going crazy. So the microchip is a really good and helpful tool for lost pets in general, lost cats more specifically. I mean, yeah, a collar with a tag with your name and telephone number. That's usually what we recommend, not the cat's name, because here there is a tendency for nasty people to, call the cat, take it, use it as bait for dog capturing. So we don't want that, but put your name on there and your telephone number. That's generally also a good idea, but the microchip is really, really the best. You can, any vet can quickly scan it and get all your details and get you your cat to use. So why do you suppose that is, that it's only 30%? I mean, that's only 30% in this area, 3% nationally in the United States. That's because that's really low. Is it because people aren't microchipping, or?
In many cases, they aren't microchipping. I'm going to add another little tip in there. So my niece just, she adopted a cat a couple of years ago, and her cat has an AirTag on it. And it's so funny because she will hide. The cat's a hider in the house, and they won't be able to find her, and they'll use the AirTag and they'll be able to find her because she's like a travel cat. She's got a leash, she's got a backpack, she goes wherever my niece goes.
Cool.
So she's in new places very often. So then she'll find a place to hide, and then you can't find her and you get all worried she's in this new environment. So they use the AirTag, which is only good for 800, 1,000 feet or something like that. But she can do Find My AirTag, and so we actually had her visiting here for a week, and she hid in a closet here, and my son couldn't find her, and he had to do the find Lily. And he found her, and I mean, we would have been looking outside. How'd she get outside? Did we all this stuff? So if you have a cat that likes to hide in the house, if you have a semi-feral cat or very shy cat, that's a really good hider. You might consider doing that.
Yeah, that's really funny. AirTags. I actually have seen cats with a little AirTag on their collar like that. It's actually pretty big, I think, but it works. It does work. I mean, you can find your iPhone, you can find your luggage. Why not your cat? So I was like, again, another one of these pieces of technology I'm honestly not the biggest fan of, because it's more of these little things that are emitting these frequencies, and it's like, is that healthy? Is it not? I don't know. The science is still not decided on that. although it is not the healthiest for you. It does have some deleterious effects, maybe not as many as some people are shouting about, but it is not enhancing your your cellular health. But on the other hand, it's either that or not find the cat or panic or what, it's, I again, I recommend doing that if you have a cat in that situation. It's just the best thing, of the whole situation. It's the right thing to do. But okay, so we have the air tags, but I just want to go back because I know there's going to be some people who heard about this paper tag and they're going to want to, where do I go to buy one? So I'm sure there's probably places that sell them. And if you have that, you can tell us what it is. But how do we make that? So could you just quickly tell me how I can make one of these things, what information to put on it, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's very simple. I mean, you just take a piece of paper and depending on the neck size of your cat, measure the neck size of your cat. And then you want it to be loose enough so you can get a couple fingers in there, but not so loose that it falls off the cat. And you just cut a piece of paper, maybe like 1 3/4 inch thick, a long strip. And then, do you own this cat? You just put, do you own this cat? If so, call with your cell phone number on it. You tape it on the cat. And in the States, we usually ask folks to, have a cat with that information on them for about a week or two. And then if you don't get any phone calls, we can declare that cat abandoned. And then we go in with a rescue mode. Assuming that, we're assuming that cat within 2 weeks is going to go to its home and that someone is going to claim that cat. And we actually, at the Community Cats podcast, will be releasing within the next week or so a template that people can use with the paper.
Oh, that'll be really helpful. A template.
They'll be able to just cut it and download that. So we'll make sure, just check out the communitycatspodcast.com. And it'll be up within a week. It's not up yet, but we have made it. But you can always email us through the contact on the website. And I have the template, so I can always email it to folks. So
that's great. Yeah. And of course, I know a lot of people will be listening to this in the future. So even though today we're recording it on the 31st of March, 2023, 2 days away from my birthday. so it's a great day. Some people will be listening to this later. They might be listening to it, in another year or two, who knows? So in that case, the template will be already there. So the place to go for the template is communitycatspodcast.com. It's a good time for me to spell it because, of course, a lot of people are going to be just listening to this on Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So it's communitycatspodcast.com. CommunityCatspodcast, communitycatspodcast.com. And that's the place to find this template. And of course, a lot of other information, helpful advice, tips, everything you need to know about community cats on that website. So everybody should go and check it out. And of course, follow them on social media so you get all the latest news. And of course, subscribe to their podcast because Kitty Boss is a great podcast, but the Community Cats podcast is equally great podcast, which I think everybody should be listening to, and you'll enjoy it too. So that's that plug for you, and we'll talk about it a bit more later. So that's great. Now, this comes to mind. So my cats don't wear collars because it has a tendency to irritate their necks. So I used to have them collared all the time. Now they're not collared, but my cats are indoor house cats and they're microchipped. And I do stick a collar back on them up for a vet trip or things like that. But this paper collar, now my cats are also very good at scratching these collars. I must have gone through, 2 or 3 collars a year. So a paper collar, they would just rip off straight away. So is there something we can do about that? Like, should we, laminate it? Should we put it on a little bit thicker paper, like maybe a cardboard or some resume paper or something like that, or just not worry about it?
No, you shouldn't worry about it because the paper is so light that there's less weighted impact around the neck. Like the regular collars are heavier, so they'll like, oh, what is this around my neck? But if you've got the fur and it's kind of wrapping around the fur, they may not even feel the pressure that much. I mean, we do the best that we can. If the cat comes back the next day and the collar is gone, they've scratched it off, and we can only do what we can do, right? And it's a lost paper collar. It's not going to be the end of the world.
No big deal. Yeah.
You can throw another one on and just keep trying with the hope that that paper collar is going to make it home with them at some point in time, so you can find out who the owner is. But again, we're just doing our best efforts, and not to say that's the only thing to do. You should still knock on your neighbor's door, do a flyer, like, this is a found cat. Are you feeding this cat? It's about information gathering.
So that's great. So this is really weird. My 1 second, my computer decided to do something very strange, which pop up a little thing on my screen, which I'm sure yours and everybody listening has done that at some point too. So you will forgive me for that. So we have, I want to talk more now about, Community Cats podcast and the actual like why you started this. Cause I get that you worked for the Feline Society, the Feline Rescue Society, for many years, training and mentoring a lot of people, as well as organizations. And I also I'm looking at it now, the vision to create a humane community for all cats and to provide education, information, dialogue, to create supportive environment, empowering people to help cats in the community, and that you have a podcast, a blog. You actually also offer grants and mentoring programs, conferences online, networking, opportunity sharing. You just do everything cat related and participate and get out there, also consulting, and you do workshops for organizations. So you do so many really amazing things. And I like to say, I love people, but I love cats even more. I may have been Egyptian in a past life. I don't know. But it's just, so when I see things like that, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Cause this is someone who does, again, I love people. So I do lots of things for people that, in my day job, that's all I do is I help people. I work as a nonprofit organization leader, in a few different things, on boards and disabled people and all that kind of stuff. But I love cats even more. So for me, I'm like, that is amazing to do so much for cats. So I have a few questions that go along the lines of that. So first and most importantly, why? Why do you do all this? Because why do you love cats so much?
Yeah, well, and it's funny that you say that, because a lot of my work is working with people. My focus is to really help you turn your passion for cats into action. I saw so many instances when I was running the Merrimack River Feline Rescue Society that I did not want anyone to ever have to see again. I didn't want to see it again. I didn't want anyone else to see it again. And so, I really wanted to share the successful programs that we had at the Merrimack River Feline Rescue Society with others, to try and empower them to be able to make a difference in the lives of cats that are in their community. I don't want people to feel helpless if they see a cat in their backyard walking through the backyard. They need to understand what an ear tip is. They need to understand how to help a mom cat with kittens, or how to trap a cat and do TNR, trap-neuter-return, for those cats. So there's just so many different things to know about, to be able to help cats, and helping cats in your community is a stepping stone to helping others. It's one part of behavior that obviously we want to help our neighbors. We want to help the other animals in our community. We want to have a community that is just loving and generous and kind and respectful. And if we can do that with our cats, we're going to do it with everybody else. And so, I don't know, I grew up with cats. I love cats. I think that they are a wonderful, beautiful being, but I love all animals too. And I love people. So I just sort of put it all together, and I use cats as my stepping stone to basically help community in general.
That's awesome. So really you're talking about, cats, people, the planet, and all life, and it's just like, that's almost a spiritual thing that we're talking about here. And I think it's really, really amazing to do that. And I can tell that you're speaking from the heart. Cats, community cats, or cats are the community. They're the vehicle, if you will, to connect us to a larger world. People have described my cats as my salvation, my connection to source, blah, 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 blah. And that's true. My cats are a real, spiritual connection for me. There is even a meditation for cats. I talk about it a lot because it's so much fun. And it's like there was a monastery where they were meditating monks. And at one point, there was one monk who really loved cats. And so he would always meditate with his cat. And people thought he didn't teach this. They just assumed that the cat had some special gift and cats would connect you, to the higher power easier and facilitate the meditation. And they just built a mythology around it and actually developed a meditation technique that requires a cat, and it's really cool. And they later, of course, when that monk died and the new monk came, there was another one who was allergic to cats. So he got rid of all the cats. It was also expensive to have a cat for each monk in the monastery. So they got rid of this, and they dispelled that myth, of course, until recently, where we find out scientifically that cats, the purr has a frequency that it oscillates at that actually reduces cortisol levels, lowers the stress in the human, and actually does facilitate your connection and your well-being in many ways. Cats are healing. Pets in general are good for mental health. Everyone knows that. But what people don't know is that there's no other creature, no insect, no animal, no bird on the planet Earth that emits this vibration, this sound that actually heals humans, that actually, takes your stress down, physically measured, through scientific instruments. So I think that's a magical thing, in my opinion. But so people have described that to me, that the cats are my connection. But cats are also a connection to the community. Look, you and I would have never met if it wasn't for cats. And you know what? There's a surprising amount of these cat people out there. The chief executive of my borough council here loves cats. And so we have a connection to that. Believe me, that's been very helpful to be able to do things locally that will help a lot of people, not just cats, that will help a lot of people. A very famous British politician has 5 cats and loves cats, as do I. We don't always agree politically speaking. We're not necessarily on the same spectrum or party, but we agree on one thing, and that is how much we love cats. So that has been a connection to the community. They're not just a part of the community, they connect you to the community. They really do have this lovely thing, this cult of cat, and so this culture, if you will. So I think it's a great thing and a great mission that you're on. So I do have this is going to sound like a really practical, possibly boring question, but because of my work at the nonprofit industry, I am very curious about where does the funding for everything that you do, the grant giving, the mentoring, where does that funding come from?
Well, at the Community Cats podcast here, we have 26 online events. Some of them are free webinars. Some of them, we have a conference, online cat conference. We have an online behavior day with your great friend, Dr. Rachel Geller. That will be on April 8th. We do TNR certification workshops. We also, with Dr. Geller, we do a surrender prevention certification program also. So those do have some fees associated with them. So that helps pay the virtual light bill. That we have. We have a team of 2 other part-time folks that work with us here at the podcast. And so that's what helps to fund, our day-to-day. And we do have some advertisers for the podcast, which also helps too. And the more subscribers we can have, the better off financially our business plan will be. But we're not a nonprofit organization. We decided to be just a regular standard business because that's what we are. Is we are out there, we're media, we're covering cats, and we're helping the community do more for their cats. So we didn't go through the nonprofit process here in the United States. Our the Community Cats Grants program is supported by a private foundation, and so at this point in time, that's where those funds are coming from to support that program, which we've assisted with funding the spay-neuter of over 11,000 cats since we started doing this program back in 2017. So we've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, but that's a lot of cats, even in that amount of time. That is a lot of cats, and it's really a significant impact. And it brings up a really good point, and that is with all that is this whole idea of the for-profit, not-for-profit divide. There really shouldn't be one, in my opinion, and isn't one. And I'm going to go on a tiny rant, but you'll forgive me for this because it's really important that people understand this. That just because a business is a for-profit enterprise, that is a business that makes money, does not mean that it is a rapacious, thing. It doesn't mean that it cannot be ethical, moral, and a part of the community. It doesn't mean that it cannot be a force for good. I know personally of several businesses here in my local area that are completely for-profit businesses, but that are an incredible force for good in their community, more so than most charities, more so than most nonprofits. One of them is, this is not libel because I'm praising my good friend Richard Fuller, who owns County Battery. So if you need a battery and you're in the United Kingdom, you go to County Battery. That business is a completely for-profit business. It's a family business, and they use the actual business as a vehicle for doing good in the community. And how do they do that? Well, they work very closely with the local Portland College, who I know the president of the college as well, and they work with the autistic, learning disabled. They work with basically their students who need extra help, who don't have the traditional resume or CV of they'll be able to get a job. They take them in, they take them under their wing, they employ them, they pay them, and they give them a career, which I think is amazing. There's another business not far, much larger, called the Linney Group, and I happen to know Nick Linney. Again, it's a family generational business, but he's the chairman and the owner of the business, if you will, and they do a similar thing where he'll say, "Give me your worst, your worst students," and he'll take them in and he'll give them a life, basically, because and he told me how he does it and all that, but that's not the purpose of this podcast. But he puts them to work, and you should see the night and day difference. I mean, honestly, no therapist I've ever seen has had results like this, where I've seen many of these cases where they come in and they're, they don't talk, they're antisocial, and within a period of 6 months to a year, they are the most outgoing, productive, employee you'd ever want. Forget a degree. They don't have education. They don't need it because they're so good. And all it took was somebody giving them the chance, somebody treating them, a certain way. And it's just remarkable to me. It is just absolutely remarkable that he can use that business as a force for good. He also does things for the environment, where he set up this entire thing that does these things with recycling and reusing and building money through eBay sales through this. But he set it up so that it creates a goodness in the world and the environment. And those are examples of for-profit businesses that make a lot of money, and yet they do a tremendous amount of good. There are, of course, probably lots of examples anyone can think of not-profit businesses that are not a force for good, that are really a way for some, person to line their pockets or to avoid paying taxes or whatever. And it's not even funny because they take people's money, and some of them have been controversial. Some of them are not controversial, but we know they do it. And so there's, both positive and negative examples. So whether something is for profit or not for profit doesn't change the fact that it can be a force for good. It can be a traditional business. And I think that's a great thing, because that means that if you have a traditional business, you can also be a force for good in the society and make money, make very good money. Or if you're a charity, you can do too. And if you're not a charity, you can still do things like Community Cats podcast. So your example, your life teaches us an important lesson in business, and not just for cats. I don't know if you know that, but by your example, you are showing us an amazing thing. So anyway, that's my rant over, sidebar done. And that's my opinion on that. So thank you for sharing that, because I do think it's really important to hit that on the head, that nail on the head, so that people don't think that, you're not a charity, so you're not worth supporting. That's baloney. Charities are great. Nonprofits are great. For-profits can be great too, if they choose. And that's what you do. So amazing.
Well, and you
So,
have to be diligent about your, they're both businesses, nonprofit, for profit. They're both businesses. And I tend to think of nonprofit as like no taxes, really. It's not necessarily nonprofit. You get these, it's a tax benefit, it's a tax ruling, really. And so you should be held accountable to both businesses. If I was going to buy a stock in a private company, I would do a level of due diligence there. Same with as I was going to be a donor to a nonprofit organization, there's a level of due diligence you need to do there. So that's sort of the way that I look at it.
yeah, and or like my friend TK says, he says for profit does not mean for not for profit does not mean for loss.
Right.
So
Correct.
you
Agreed.
still need to run it in a wise way, and people forget that, I think, too much, and they struggle in the nonprofit industry. So there's lots of lessons to be learned here. So anyway, so that answers that question, where the funding comes from, the resources come from for Community Cats podcast. Definitely answers to that. And of course, Stacy mentioned events. Stacy mentioned Dr. Rachel Geller, who we host our monthly cat every single month. And I think that it's really important for you to stay up to date with all of these events, when they are, when you can sign up, if you can support the events, if you want to sponsor. Let's say you have loads of money and you want to sponsor the grants or whatever, then communitycatspodcast.com is the place to go to find out more and sign up and contact Stacy and all these things that you can do to support Community Cats. So the area that you operate in, Stacy, is that Vermont, or are you throughout the United States or internationally? What is sort of your catchment area?
So in general, about 80% of our podcast listeners and attendees are from the United States, but then the other 80% are from outside of the United States in terms of attending our virtual events as well as listening to the podcast. So that is and we want to encourage that. We really want to have a more international feel to our program. So we have a conference in the fall, the United Spay Alliance conference, and we do a lot of international presentations of different programs focusing on spaying and neutering of cats there, sort of all around the world programs from that standpoint. So great diversity there. With regards to our Community Cats Grants program, that unfortunately the gifts can only go to 501c3 organizations in the United States. So at this point in time, it is limited just to the United States. However, with that being said, we're always working on other options and alternatives, so it can't hurt to reach out. And we also do sometimes have scholarship funds available for attending our events, and those are open also to international applicants. So we'll be having a scholarship opportunity for our online feline leukemia day, which will be coming up in July 15th. And we already know we're going to have a very generous scholarship opportunity for that event.
Fantastic. And it's great that you're going to be going internationally because I think that you have an international opportunity, let's just say, because I can think of Community Cats being present in several places around the world. For example, my friend who actually used to live here is a professor at the University of Cairo in Egypt. And boy, does she take care of the Community Cats. I mean, she posts all over the social media and everything. So, for example, my good friend Nellie, Dr. Nellie Elenani, she could definitely not only probably teach some stuff for your conferences, but she could also learn stuff from, what to do, how to, little tricks and tips of how to take care of these Community Cats. And I know of Community Cats in other towns across Europe and all of that, and even in Asia as well. So there's no limits or borders to that, only to the grants, because of you're limited by the legal frameworks and requirements that you have. So that's totally understandable, obviously. And the so we have an international reach with Community Cats, and I hope people really do take advantage of that, because it's really valuable information that you're you're teaching, you're offering, and that's the right thing to do, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and where there are a lot of international organizations, there's a huge movement called SPAY Japan. There's a group in India. There's a group actually in Greece, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done in Greece. So SPAY
Italy.
Panama, Italy, right? SPAY Mexico. So it's just really wonderful to see the efforts of folks trying to work on handling our cat overpopulation issues through access to spay neuter programs.
And we can learn from each other as well, because that's the good side of internationalization, globalization, blah, blah, blah. There's, of course, downsides to it, but the good side is that we can learn a lot from each other. So I think I would like to leave you with the sort of proverbial last word. So is there anything you'd care to say or ask, maybe, for the listeners of the Kitty Boss podcast before we end the show?
Yeah, well, if there are folks out there listening, feel free to put into the comments any questions that you might have. And I'd be curious to know if any of you have trapped a community cat. If you are interested in learning about how to trap cats, we do have a TNR certification workshop. That is tomorrow. No fooling. Tomorrow it is 2 p.m. Eastern time, but everything we have is recorded. So if the time zone's an issue, that's not a big deal. Everything's recorded. You can watch things on the recording. And so feel free to join us. And we do have our online behavior day on April 8th. And that is from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Eastern time. Again, everything is recorded. 4 fantastic feline, I call them the feline behavior dream team. Dr. Geller is one of those, Pam Johnson-Bennett, Arden Moore, and Tabitha Crucera. So if you're into anything on feline behavior, that's going to be like the Saturday to be there and to really enjoy. So, our website has everything there, communitycatspodcast.com. If you're interested in strategy, I recommend Googling the Community Cat Pyramid, which is something where I talk about in your community, if you're trying to create a new initiative, this is some strategy around how to be able to do it and use your time most effectively, because, it's hard starting a new group. I mean, we just talked about nonprofits. It's hard to put a new organization together. Usually it starts out with a handful of people. So we want to make sure that our time is being used most efficiently. And then, lastly, I'm going to say, thank you again for turning your passion for cats into action. Justin, for sure, you're doing it. Everybody out there, you're doing it. Anyone who's out there who has cats, loves cats, owns cats, you're doing it. You're making a difference in the lives of cats, and I really appreciate it, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Stacey. I know I speak for everyone when I say we really appreciate you and everything you not only have done, have been doing, are doing, and will do in the future. So remember, Stacey has some incredible opportunities coming up for events, both free and paid. And if you're listening to this live, go to communitycatspodcast.com and sign up. But if you're not listening to this live, don't worry, because like she said, everything is recorded. So this is still relevant. This is evergreen. And you can still go to Community Cats Podcast if you're listening to this in 2031 and sign up and watch and learn from these events. But who knows? Maybe I will have achieved my mission of 1 million more cats being adopted by 2031. I don't know. I didn't put a time limit or a deadline on it because that would be a little bit too daunting. So that's just a mission. And if it happens in my lifetime, that's great. If it doesn't, I hope I've made a dent in that. So thank you so much, Stacey, for being on the show. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate your time. It's been I know everyone will agree. It's been wonderful to meet you. I can see that we have a couple comments that validate what we've been saying. So Janie says, took the TNR certification. Great training. Have trapped 4 cats and hope to continue. Trap-neuter-return. So I hope no one is alarmed when we say trap cats. We're not trapping them and eating them. We're trapping them, neutering them or spaying them, and releasing them and making sure that the population is under control and that the cats are healthy and taken care of, even if we can't take them and adopt them into our own homes. So we have validation of this certification training. And we have another person, Sarah Jane, saying, volunteer for our local TNR group, but do trapped cat care and general cat care. And of course, you can see that Stacy and I are applauding you for those efforts, because that is an amazing thing to be doing for your community, for cats. That really is going the extra mile for the cats, because but let's remember that what Stacey has been preaching since the beginning, which is we do what we can. I always used to say in Round Table, an organization I'm part of, table is about what you can do, not what you can't do. So it's about what you can do. What is within the purview or the compass of your attainment? What is it that you can do? Don't worry about if you can't, do as much as somebody else. Do what it is that you can do. I'll tell you what the only wrong thing to do is. Nothing. That's the only wrong thing to do. The wrong thing to do is nothing. If you act, if you take some action, even tiny, we applaud you, we celebrate you, and we cerebrate you. So absolutely. So thank you very much for joining us today. Stacey, I'll see you in a minute. And for everyone listening, this is Cat Lady Justin, and this is The Kitty Boss, where we pick, pamper, and protect your practically perfect pussycat for a lifetime of unconditional love. I look forward to seeing you again real soon.